I can't start a video about crafting cards in Pokemon TCG Live without talking about the insane change the dev is making to the game. When Journey Together launches on March 27th, they're instituting a crafting ban on what they're dubbing over-numbered cards. Beginning that day, you'll have to wait 6 months before you can spend your trade credits on new cards outside of the main set. Journey Together has 159 cards in the main set, all of which can be crafted day one. But if you want this Iono's Bellibolt EX, for example, which is number 183 out of 159, then you either have to pull it from a pack or get it as an in-game reward. If not, you have to wait until September 27th before you can manually craft it. Yes, it's stupid, and no, they haven't told us why they're doing it. They're seriously making us wait until March 27th before revealing the reason behind the decision. And if it's not microtransactions, then it's just because they hate us. Anyways, with all that fun stuff out of the way, let's focus on the cards you can craft on day one. Despite Journey Together being filled with leftover starter deck throwaways from Japan, there's a surprising number of cards to craft with your trade credits. Of course, the big mechanic to start 2025 is the return of Trainers Pokemon. Journey Together features Hop and Lillie and Iono, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. But who cares about them? We're starting with the support Pokemon, specifically Lilligant and Blaziken EX. You see, about 30% of cards in Journey Together are from the 2024 H block, yet they're releasing in the first set of the 2025 I block. It's definitely confusing. My advice is to always look in the bottom left of a card to see which block it's from. Most of the H cards are those starter deck crap, but Lilligant and Blaziken are absolutely worth crafting. For Lilligant, it boosts the damage your Grass and Fire type Pokemon deal by 20, and it stacks. The best partner, at least according to Japanese players, is Diplin. Chuck in a 2-2 line of Lilligant, now Diplin can do 140 damage with each attack, or 280 each turn with Testicle Festival in play. Then we have Blaziken EX, another H-block card I wish hadn't skipped Prismatic Evolutions. The ability is simple. Once during your turn, attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. Doesn't matter if that Pokemon's in the active or on the bench, Blaziken can accelerate to it. The most popular partners in Japan are Dragapult EX and Mamoswine EX. Since both of those have slightly awkward attack costs in our new post-rotation meta, Blaziken smooths it out like the peanut butter I lather on my feet each night. Get yourself a 2-1-2 line of Blaziken and be ready for the next couple of years. Sort of like when I replaced my ex-wife with a younger, sturdier woman, Volcanion EX is going to be our obtuse replacement for Radiant Sneasler. Since rotation is taking all the F-block cards, including every Radiant, Brute Bonnet, and Petulant will need a new friend. Enter Volcanion EX. If it's in the active spot, you can burn your opponent's active. That's a guaranteed 20 damage during checkup. And if they flip tails, they remain burned, potentially adding more damage on the next checkup, provided they don't switch or evolve. Volcanion essentially slots into any deck running Latios EX, giving you at least 20 extra damage each turn. Now we see our first appearance of Trainers Pokemon. To be completely honest, the entire Iono archetype is on the cusp of not being worthy of your precious trade credits, but I'd feel bad including every other trainer and leaving her out. If you want to build an Iono deck either on its own or with Raging Bolt, you need a 3-3 line of Kilowattrel. Once during your turn, you can discard an energy from Kilowattrel, then drop to 6. Bellibolt accelerates lightning energy onto Kilowattrel for free, Lavincia gets back discarded energy. It's a great engine that just doesn't quite have the power you want. It might be a little weird seeing N's Reshiram in the support category, but its only purpose in life is to give N Zoroark EX a one-hit KO attack. Craft one Reshiram, now your Zoroark can deal 20 damage for each damage counter on it. Basically, if it has 170 damage on it, Zoroark can KO every meaningful Pokemon in the game. While N Zoroark might be the better archetype on paper, I still prefer Hop. For his Pokemon, you want two Snorlax. Its ability boosts the damage Hop's Pokemon deal by 30. Although it doesn't stack, you still want two copies in your deck because Heavy Ball rotates and prizing basics will be an issue again. As for Dubwool, that's been popping up everywhere. Our Chaladon, Cerulege, Raging Bolt, and more have all been taking dubs thanks to this thing. When you evolve into Hop's Dubwool, it's a free boss's orders. While you could go for a 3-3 line, start with a 2-2 and add as necessary. This video's already starting to drag on, so let's hop to it and start the attacking section with Hop's Pokemon. How many Zacian EX you should craft depends on which build you want to run. If it's with our Chaladon EX, you only need 2. If it's a full Hop deck, you need 3. As a reminder, EX Pokemon cost 600 trade credits each, so it's either 1200 or 1800. And our Chaladon is the perfect partner for Zacian. Evolve into our Chaladon and accelerate 2 Metal Energy from your discard pile to it. Attach Hop's Choice Bandization, put the damage buffers into play, and now it can deal 340 damage for 3 energy, giving our Chaladon a huge threat. As for Hop's Cramorant, you only need 2 because you'll only be able to use 2 of them per game. If your opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, you can give him the old Fickle Spitting and deal 120 damage for 1 energy. But when you add Choice Band, Postwick, and Snorlax into the mix, it's 210 for free. Yeah, kinda nuts. And that number happens to be perfect for one-shotting Pheasantipity EX. Best of all, Cramorant can fit into almost any deck, just like how any foot can fit into my mouth. There's a reason Lillie's Clefairy EX was my #1 new Journey Together card. It's your counter to Raging Bolt and Dragapult, 2 of the top decks in our post-rotation format. With 5 total bench Pokemon in play, it's one-shotting Raging Bolt. With 7, it's one-shotting Dragapult. That's because it gives your opponent's Dragon Pokemon a Psychic weakness. Plus, the attack is super easy to launch. Use a Luminous Energy plus Energy Switch in a Teal Masked Ogerpon build, or simply play Crispin and it's powered up. Certain decks only need 1 Clefairy thanks to Night Stretcher, or 2 to get around prizing issues, but if you want to build a full Clefairy deck, get 3. Seriously, the card is that good. Now's the time where I get it up like Ents PP. For his Zoroark EX, you absolutely need a full 4/4 line. In addition to its discard 1 and draw 2 ability, Zoroark is the main attacker in an Ents deck. Ironically though, it doesn't have an attack itself. All it can do is copy the attack of a benched Ents Pokemon. So you need other Ents Pokemon, including a 3/3 line of Darmanitan and at least 1 Reshiram. With no Manaphy in our next format, Darmanitan is great for dealing with low HP basics and stage 1 Pokemon like Charmeleon and Dracloak, as it does 90 to their active plus 90 to a bench Pokemon. Backdraft is less useful, but against the Roulette EX you can take 1-hit KOs easily. Reshiram, meanwhile, is mostly a safety precaution. An easy 170 is enough to KO Squawkabilly, so it's fine in a pinch. But Powerful Rage is able to help the Dragapult matchup. If they hit into Zoroark for 200 damage, you can retaliate the next turn with a 400 damage attack. And then we have Iono. Like I mentioned earlier, you can potentially skip her entire lineup. It's not that her cards are bad, it's just that she's basically C tier while Hop and N are A tier. The Raging Bolt variant isn't as good as the Ogerpon one, and getting 15 Lightning Energy in play for Voltorb to one-shot a Dragapult is asking a lot, even with the deck designed to churn through energy like it's butter. Still, if you want to play it, you're going to need a 3/3 line of Bellibolt, a 3/3 line of Kilowattrel, and 2 Voltorb, which isn't that cheap. Moving to non-trainers Pokemon, Mamoswine EX has a definite chance to impact the meta. It does 180 base damage plus 40 more for each stage 2 Pokemon on your bench. 2 Fighting Energy is a weird attack cost in our next format, so pair it with Blaziken EX and Pidgeot EX or Garganacl and Pidgeot. Now you can grab any Pokemon every turn with Mamoswine, accelerate energy with Blaziken, and get any card with Pidgeot. While not the easiest deck to get set up because of Bidoof shutting off rare candy, once you get it up, it's tough to beat off. As I've said, with rotation on March 27th, you can no longer play with your Beaver. While Revavroom is an okay replacement, Dudunsparce is great for decks that don't have a lot of energy. And for decks that already use Dudunsparce for draw, you can chuck in a copy of Dudunsparce EX as a backup attacker. For a single colorless energy, it does 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon EX in play. While you can't build a deck around it, Dudunsparce does punish EX-heavy decks, especially those with Area 0. And its second attack can one-shot a Mimikyu, though it does require 3 energy. Also, for those wondering, while there is a new Dunsparce in Journey Together, stick with the old one that can get you a Pokemon. Moving along like the All-American rejects, you might think this Maractus is useless. In fact, it's great. While its ability isn't a Rocky Helmet and instead a Bursting Balloon, meaning it only damages them upon being knocked out, the attack is super useful. For a colorless energy, it does 20 damage and prevents retreating. So while it's not one-shotting a Bidoof, it prevents them from retreating that Bidoof, hurting their setup. Plus, it can be used as a stall card in certain matchups, trapping something like Latios EX. And don't forget that Switch Cart leaves standard the same day Maractus arrives, giving players access to even less Switch Cards. Last and kind of least, we have Tapu Koko EX. While Miraidon is much worse post-rotation due to Raikou V and Raichu V rotating, Tapu Koko shines in a role similar to Lillie's Clefairy. It does 60 base damage for 2 energy, plus 20 more for each of your bench Pokemon. So it can only top out at 220 with Area 0 down. But that's more than enough to deal with all those lightning-weak Pokemon post-rotation, like Squawkabilly EX, and I think that's it. But it's good to have nonetheless, even if it's just for the free retreat. As I suspected, For the Win wears socks when he's recording, and I can never forgive him for that. Also, Ace specs are done. So instead, I have to start this section by doing something that makes me physically ill, telling you to craft a copy of Super Potion, which is getting reprinted in Journey Together. Unfortunately, while Snorlax Stall rotates on March 27th, my low-ticked wall essentially takes its place. And healing with Super Potion plus Pokevital A is a thing it does. Super Potion also helps our Chaladon EX and a few other decks, so yes, make sure you have one copy of it. Moving to the trainers, we have Hop's Choice Band, Hop's Bag, and Postwick. Choice Band is insane, boosting the damage of Hop's Pokemon by 30 and reducing their attack cost by 1 colorless energy. Add in Postwick, which is another 30 damage boost, plus Snorlax and Zacian EX is hitting for 340 with Brave Slash. Get 4 Choice Band, 2 Bag, and 3 Postwick. One advantage to Lillie having so few cards is that you only need to craft her Pearl. Get 3, now Lillie's Clefairy EX gives up 1 fewer prize card when it's KO'd by damage. Things like damage counter pings from Dragapult EX, or damage with Monkey Dory's ability, or a one-hit KO move like Roaring Moon EX's do ignore Lillie's Pearl, but it's still a busted card. If you want to be an expert at getting Ends PP up, you only need 300 credits to do it 3 times. Surprisingly, very few Japanese players want to get Ends PP up 4 times, so just stick with 3 for now. As for Ends Castle, where he has a private room for getting his PP up, you want 3 of those as well to give every Ends Pokemon free retreat. While you might think that Kilowattrel is the best partner for Levincia, which recovers 2 lightning energy from the discard pile, in reality, Golden Go gets the biggest boost from it. Craft 2 copies of the stadium, and now you have an easy way for Golden Go to reuse 2 energy each turn for its attack. Elsewhere, you want 1 exchange ticket plus 1 Brock Scouting. With Heavy Ball rotating, exchange ticket is your new way to prevent TCG Live from completely screwing you over. Basically, if you use exchange ticket with 6 prizes still available, you shuffle all 6 of them and put them on the bottom of your deck. Then you take the top 6 cards of your deck and place them in your prizes. You can use something like Academy at Night or Cypher Maniac's Codebreaking to choose 1 or 2 of those prizes, but realistically, you just want exchange ticket as a last resort if you prize all of your Dragapult EX or something. As for Brock Scouting, I've never thought it's worth playing, but some people in Japan did use a copy in very certain situations. Lumineon V and Forest Sealstone are rotating, so actually grabbing Brock Scouting when you need it is tough, but it can be a way to get through Badoo item lock, putting any 2 basic Pokemon from your deck or any 1 evolution Pokemon from your deck into your hand. You'd probably be happier jocking off or eating some Serrano peppers than getting Brock hard, but get 1 Brock Scouting so I can say I was smart if this thing ever becomes playable. The other 2 supporters worth owning are Iris's Fighting Spirit and Ruffian. Sort of like a supporter-based Revavroom, Iris discards a card from your hand and draws you up to 6. It has its uses and is far less destructive than Research and won't help your opponent out like Iono can. Overall, Iris is behind Research and Iono in terms of widespread playability, but in decks that can see the potential of Iris, it'll be great. Then there's Ruffian. No more Lost Vacuum means you either have to run Jamming Tower or Ruffian to deal with tools. Special energy will be less important post-rotation given that Lugia and Double Turbo are gone, though it can get rid of a Legacy or Jet energy. While Ruffian's not great, just have 1 in your collection as a safety precaution. Despite Journey Together featuring around 155 new cards, around 25% of them are actually worth owning. And there's only a few more even worth mentioning as potential options. They include Excelgor, which could be a fun hit-and-run card with Brute Bonnet. You hit for 70, confuse and poison, then promote someone like Mimikyu or Klefki to hurt your opponent's chances to do anything the following turn. I'm mostly including Tyranitar on the leftovers section and not the main attackers section because I'm tired of item lock. Honestly, you probably do want to craft a 4-2-3 line. Just know that if you do, you'll win a bunch of games and people will hate you. Get Tyranitar in the active, they can't play items. Then for 2 energy, deal 150 damage and mill the top 2 cards of their deck. The more I think about it, the better Tyranitar seems, so don't be surprised if you see this a couple of times once Journey Together comes out. Or how about Magmortar? Pair it with Badoo and Volcanion EX, now you have an item lock deck that's worse than Frostlass Badoo, relying on burn instead of spreading damage counters to ability Pokemon. Wailord's attack requires 7 energy to one-shot the best Stage 2 Pokemon in the game, and you need Baxcalibur to power it up. That's asking a lot. On the bright side, Wailord has the same number of hit points as Raging Bolt EX, plus access to Heavy Baton and Luxurious Cape. Lycanroc Spike Energy is probably better than I'm giving it credit for, but I've been hurt in the past by fun single-prize decks that I just don't trust it. The main issue is that you have to keep Rockruff unevolved for most of the game, as Lycanroc only accelerates Spike Energy upon evolution. And in a format dominated by Dragapult EX, that's not a good thing. That being said, Lycanroc's attack does damage based on the number of damage counters on your opponent's active, and Spike Energy damages anyone who hits into the Lycanroc. I hope it's good, I'm just ready to be hurt. Finally, Magearna. Put it in the active spot, attach a rescue board, or have Latios EX in play, and now you can heal 90 damage from any Pokemon that gets an energy attached from your hand. A potentially funny combo is Magearna with Bellibolt. Put a Hero's Cape on your belly, let it take a hit, then accelerate energy to fully heal it. As fun as Magearna could be, it hasn't done much in Japan. But you know what? I'm upgrading Magearna. Get one copy and thank me with feet picks when it wins you a game in 2 years. Despite Journey Together being an overall disappointing set because so much of it is leftover crap just thrown in, you'll still need to spend around 20,000 trade credits to craft every playable card. You could always make some cuts like a few trainers and Iono's entire family, but even then, I'd suggest around 15,000 credits to get all the most playable cards in the set. Typically, this is the point in the video where I'd say that crafting costs will change once we know the free decks on the Journey Together Battle Pass, plus the 8 new default free decks for all of 2025. But there's so much uncertainty about the future of Live's economy that I can't get your hopes up. I'm worried they'll discontinue those default free decks. I mean, they've already made a couple other very player-unfriendly decisions recently. This would just be another drop in the capacious bucket. Regardless, we should still at least continue receiving Battle Pass free decks, which I'll post about around March 20th. If I had to guess, N and Hop will probably be the free decks on the Battle Pass. Just remember that you won't unlock the second deck until Tier 33. I've already blabbed for long enough, so tell me which cards from Journey Together you're most excited for in the comments.